Hello and welcome to another video in our incense course. Now we're really getting into the nitty-gritty. We're going to do the first ceremonial method, the simplest. Almost everything that you need is going to come in the kit that you get if you order a kit to get started. So in that kit, almost everything, some of the things you're going to have to get on your own. So we have the tea jar that we've repurposed as a censer, the metal chopsticks, which you'll need. Again, we didn't include a feather in the set because we want you to find your own feather, and then you could put it on a piece of bamboo, or you can just use the feather as it is. We've included some charcoal. Remember, she's got it in a nice little box. If you want to get a little box for your charcoal, you also can have a little box for your charcoal. Remember, we cut the charcoal in half. Those pieces are too big, so we cut them in half so we can double the amount of charcoal. So the charcoal you get, you can cut in half. We talked about how to do that with a steak knife. Go around each side and then saw in the middle, and you get two pieces. Don't break it. Take the time to saw all the way through so it doesn't shatter. And your set also has a little bit of incense, a little bit of wood. So she's already cut the wood. We cut the wood beforehand in our way, in our tradition. So we brought it out. She's got it on a scoop. You might want to, the scoop does not come in the set also, so you might want to have a little scoop. You could use a little piece of paper if you don't have a scoop, but a nice little scoop like this is good. She's already cut it. We showed how to do that in a previous video. And then you need something to keep the tools in or on, which doesn't come in the set. So you could use any kind of little flower vase as we discussed, or just put out a little piece of bamboo and rest the feather and the chopsticks on that. You need the cloth, so that we are providing in the set, that's coming with the set. And then you need some way to light the charcoal. And again, this could be just a dish, and you use a lighter to get it going. But ideally, we use, like we do, a candle, and it's much better in the ceremony. We will have these kinds of cups with the metal top and the candles that fit inside. We probably won't sell the candles, but we'll have the cup and the metal top eventually on the website for you to get. But for now, you'll just need something to put the charcoal on so you can light it as you go. So you'll have almost all of that. And we just have a real simple shangxi, a simple stage as a cloth. And you can, of course, design that how you want. So everything you really need to get started, you're going to have charcoal, the cloth, the censer, the ash. We're going to send in a bag the little piece of incense to get you started, the chopsticks. So just about everything. You just need to come up with a way of lighting it, and you need to find your own feather, okay? And some kind of scoop, but that could be a paper or anything. So this is the simplest method, and we're going to go over each step as she does it, and she's going to talk us through it. And there's some parts that we can also practice individually. So it's a really good idea to just like, with tea, you can practice just washing the bowls over and over again. Same with this. You don't have to do everything from beginning to end and have a full ceremony, including using your precious incense to practice. So there are parts that you can just practice by themselves over and over again. And I try to do that too. So I'll point out some of the places where you could practice as we go through. Okay? So we start? Yeah? Start with a bow, obviously, right?
那我们先把炭。
So first thing, we're going to start the charcoal. So I'm putting it on the coals to get started getting going. Again, you can use a lighter, like the kind that has a bit of a jet.
我们加完炭之后。
Yep. Every time you gotta clean the chopsticks, so get that charcoal off of the chopsticks.
然后我们把灰，我们放在罐子里，带出来带出去，它会变很紧。我们现在把它弄松。
The ash that we've already cleaned and roasted it's going to be in a glass jar. It will have obviously compacted and gotten tight. So the first step we're going to do is to loosen it up. Yeah, so you're just going to put the chopsticks in and go around in a circle. And this is really relaxing. As she said, it's a really good way. And the chopsticks are a little bit apart. So there's a little space. And you're just going in circles. Going in circles, going in circles. One more time. 还有一次.
我们下去的时候不用到很深，就是前面一点点。
Okay, about the depth that we're going to put the charcoal. So we're not going all the way to the bottom of the ash. We're just going down about this much, and the chopsticks are about this far apart, and we're just going to go around in circles and circles and circles, right? Just to the depth of where the charcoal is going to go. And she's just doing smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller circles. So around and around and around and around and around and around. Just about that depth, okay? About the depth of the charcoal. And that's really relaxing. So it's a really good way to start.
那我现在要把炭
Okay, and then remember she cleaned her chopsticks right there, yeah. And she's going to turn the charcoal over and get the other side. So this, if you had a plate and you were doing this, you also want to light the other side too. So you'd hit it with the lighter and then turn it over and then hit the other side with the lighter too if you're using a lighter.
如果你不太会用筷这个夹的话，我们把它移近一点，它才不会掉。
If you're not great at using the chopsticks, bring it really close so you don't drop the hot charcoal on the table, right? So she's saying if you're not good with the chopsticks yet, you're just starting, bring your censer right up to the candle or the place where you're lighting your charcoal and bring it just that little bit so there's no chance of dropping it on the table.
对，也可以这个过来。
Or you could bring that to the censer or the censer to that. But you want it wherever you're lighting the charcoal. If you're not good with the chopsticks, bring it in, okay? Then of course she's gonna wipe them again on her cloth. You just squeeze to wipe, right? She's got to fold in the cloth, right? She's got to fold in the cloth, and she's just she puts the chopsticks in sideways, and then holds it with her hand and pulls it out to clean them.
然后因为我这个是方的，所以我要转一个面，然后再一次。
Yeah. So because hers are a little bit square, her chopsticks are a little bit square. She puts it in and turns it, and then she that gets two sides. So she then flips them and does it again, and it gets the other two sides, right? Because hers are a little bit square. If your chopsticks are round, that's not so much of an issue. But if they're a little bit square, you got to be mindful of that. You squeeze there, and then you turn them and do the other side, and then that'll get all four sides because you're pressing from bottom and top. So she's just pressing and then pulls it out each time to clean it off.
然后我们刚刚炭是放到跟灰一样的高的。
She put the charcoal in is even with you can see it's even with the ash.
我们把灰慢慢的。
Very slowly, you can see she turned. This is very important. She turns the censer, not her hand, and she's just slowly raking the ash up on top. And this is one of those things that you can practice a lot without the charcoal, without the ceremony. Start practicing this. It's really, really challenging. It's a lot harder than what she makes it look like, and you got to practice for a lot of time. So you're just slowly raking the ash up into a center pile. And notice she turns the censer, not her hand. So her hand just stays in this roughly the same spot every time, and she just keeps turning the censer, and raking the ash. And she's very slow and very gentle. Just using the tips of the chopsticks. 这筷子最下面的部分啊，大概在
对最前面的地方把它拉上来。拉到中间。
So最下面拉的。So the last little bit, just pulling the ash up into a pile. Very gentle. And spinning the censer as she goes. And practice this a lot. Practice this, without charcoal. Just now she's going to clean this again, right? Practice that without the charcoal. Just practice, that turning the censer and bringing the ash into a pile, turning the censer, bringing ash into a pile. You can practice that over and over and over again all day long without the charcoal.
我把两只放一个
Okay.
留一个
Okay, so she put one chopstick away and she's just got one left for this next part. So now she's taken just one chopstick and she's slowly compressing the ash. This is to keep the heat in so it travels just upward, right? And she's just again just turning the censer and just tap, 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 turn, turn, tap, tap, tap. And the tapping is happening in the same spot. So she's not moving the chopstick, she's just turning the sensor. And tap, 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 compressing the ash. Tap, 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 compressing
我
the
们先
ash.
压紧之后，我们先看一下它中间到碳的高度。帮它开一个孔。
Yeah, we need to open a little hole from the charcoal up to the top, so that so that
我们大概这个平的位置，到碳，你会摸到碳，然后它大概要1公分。
So we want about a centimeter down to the charcoal. If that's not right, then our pile, when we were raking the pile up, it was also not correct.
OK 了，我们就可以再继续。
So if we checked it and it's okay, it's 1 centimeter, then we can go back to compressing. And the compressing is just, you have to be very mindful and just slowly, slowly turning the sensor and padding, and turning the sensor and padding, turning the sensor, padding. Turning the sensor and padding, and so you just keep that up. It's very, very patient work, and this is another area where you can do this for homework. You can practice and practice and practice this over and over and over again without any charcoal, without any incense. Just practice, 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 right? I often actually do use charcoal, it's just unlit. So then I can, I just take a piece of charcoal. I can take it out later, but I put a piece of charcoal in, and that allows me to, test the depth to make sure that my pile is the proper depth down to the when I was raking in that first step, raking up, and make sure that the charcoal is in the right place, about 1 centimeter down. And this compression of the ash then forces the heat from the charcoal. It can't, because the ash is all compressed, it can't go out the sides so much. It has to go up the hole that we make in the top. It's also decorative, so it's also aesthetic, it's beautiful. Oftentimes after it's compressed flat, then you can also make a pattern in it, some kind of beautiful pattern. But the simplest way is just the pattern of the chopstick itself. This is the area also when we went over the tools, where I said that I have that kind of cheat tool for compressing the ash. I showed that those like kind of spatula tools that are kind of cheating for making the ash compressed. That's, you can use that tool also. It's a little bit of cheating, but this is the real ways. Use the chopstick and just slowly, 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 over and over and over again as you turn the sensor, and it all gets compressed.
那我们外圈的好了，我们现在要做中间，我们等一下放香的地方的。
So now that we're done on the outside, it's all compressed, and she's not today going to make a pattern. You could draw a pattern. Sometimes they draw clouds or other patterns, but the pattern that is left from the chopstick is often already beautiful enough. So now that we've done that step, we need to make a place to put the incense, because in this method we're not using a plate. We're not using the little plate for roasting the incense. So we're gonna make a little indentation in the ash. And to do that indentation, we're just gonna, again, she's just using the tip of the chopstick and turning the censer. Tip of the chopstick and turning the censer around to make a little like volcano. Make a little indentation on the top of the volcano, on the top of the mountain, right? And make it flat, but not just flat. You want it to like, dip down, to be like basically the shape of a little indented plate if we were putting a plate on top. So you just turn the sensor and very gently tap the chopstick. This requires a lot of mindfulness. So this is a really wonderful mindfulness practice. You have to be very, very, very careful. And this is another area you can practice without actually sitting down for a whole incense ceremony. You just practice just this part. I usually do all these 3 parts together. So the raking of the ash up after the charcoal's in there flat, and then the compression of the charcoal in the circle, and then this slowly, slowly, slowly making an indentation. So it's just about holding the chopstick at that right angle, that 45-degree angle roughly, and just pat, 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 pat the top of your mountain, until you get a nice little indentation all the way around. Looks almost like a flower, really. And, you know, hers, of course, looks way better than mine, and yours will, most likely, unless you have a natural affinity, and it turns out. But this is what it looks like when it's done extremely well. So I would practice those 3 steps over and over and over and over again. Practice them, you know, just again and again and again. The raking of the ash up, and then the compression of the ash, and then she said, remember, as you start compressing the ash, check your depth to make sure you've raked to a depth. You have to compress a little bit, like if you compress a little slice, like a little, 10-degree slice first, and then you can check the depth, and then you continue with the compression when you know that your depth is right. If your depth's not right, you need to rake again, and then go around at the 45-degree angle and create the little indentation. And so now that we have those 3 steps done, she's going to use the feather to put the incense into the indentation.
我们先放2颗，2 个， 先试看看它有没有温度跟香味，对不对？
She wants to we're just going to put, she's got a few pieces here, but she's going to start with just putting 1 or 2, just to make sure we've got enough temperature. We've done our mountain right. So she's just going to put 2 of she's got a nice little pile there, but she's going to put just 2 of the pieces just to make sure that there's enough heat that it's going to start roasting, and that it's done well before she adds a bunch.
OK， 这个温度现在是可以的，有香味的。
Okay, so the temperature is right, and the incense is starting to roast. Yeah.
那我们确定这个是我要的，那我旁边会有一些灰喷上来的，我现在要清理。
Once I'm sure that now this is what I want, this is the shape that I want, and it's my final what I'm going to do, then we're going to slowly turn the censer and use the feather to get any ash off of the rim of the censer that got there when we were raking or compressing or making the little indentation on the top. So we're going to get all that little bits of ash off the top. Remember, again, that you can see she does move the feather a little, but she's mostly turning the censer. And that's just something that's common all throughout the whole ceremony. Turning the censer and not your hand. Oh, and this censer in particular has a little bit of a shelf for the lid, so we want to clean that off too. But other censers maybe don't have that, so you're just going to clean the top rim. So first she cleaned the top rim, and now she's cleaning that little inner rim for the lid, because this was a tea jar, so she wants to clean that off too. Make sure there's no ash on that. Now clean your feather too. Get the ash off your feather before you use it to put more incense in. And then now we're sure our shape's good, our ash is all cleaned off. We're going to put the rest of the incense in now that we know that it's working. 'Very carefully using the feather. So she had a little more than she needed, I think, on the Yao Feng Chan. Oh, yeah, she had to turn it a little bit to get the rest in. I thought there was a little bit extra, but no, she just had to turn the censer a little bit because to get it easier into the other side where she wants it to go. She's just very carefully using the feather to get it all right into that little indentation.
So
it's a little. She feels it's a little like too piled up. There's a few more pieces over here and a little bit less on one side. So she's going to move the pieces around to get them where she wants with the chopstick. And then test it. before sending to the guest.
Very good smell.
Very nice.
那等到等一下，如果10几分钟以后，炭它会慢慢的火焰变小，我们就要用这个火柱再把它往下压一点，因为它炭变小了，那它还在这里，它就会没有办法接触到火，所以我们要把香往它的方向再让它下去一点。
As the charcoal burns, the charcoal is going to be getting smaller inside of there, and so eventually, 多少分？你说15分大概？
你在闻的时候觉得，它的味道已经荡下来，不是你要的味道的时候，你就可以压。
Okay, so a little bit later on, the time is not specific because it depends on the incense, but a little bit later on, as the charcoal burns down, you'll smell it, and it won't be the smell that you desire. It'll have it won't be coming out, it won't be strong, and so it's because the charcoal's burned down, and so you have to take the chopstick and kind of push the incense down a little bit gently, so it's getting closer to the charcoal to maintain temperature.
我的经验大概是10到15分钟左右，可以压一点点下去。那有一些如果觉得你压下去还是觉得味道不够，那你可以再切一点点，再加一点点。
Okay, so her experience is with most incense, it's about 15 minutes. You can also add a little bit more incense if the aroma is not what you desire, but usually around 15 minutes is the first time you wanna push it down a little bit. 你压几次？压一次吗？
整个从我们现在开始，然后到结束，大概会压2次到3次。
So yeah, from now, the beginning of the ceremony until the very end, she said probably 2 or 3 times you'll have to push the incense down towards the charcoal. 大概是每一个15分钟。
10到15分钟，所以它大概可以
so about
40到1个小时。
Okay, so the ceremony can go about 40 minutes to an hour, and so in each time you push it down is roughly 10-15 minutes. So 2-3 times should take forget for the whole ceremony is enough to just push it down those 2 or 3 times.
那我们拿的时候，如果说是我跟你很熟，我可以直接放在你的手上。那我们传给对方，我要给你，那你就把靠近我的那只手伸平来接。那或者说我放在桌子上，然后你再过来拿。
放桌子是比较
安全。对，那有一些其他的流派，他们说放桌子上，有的人会砰，那他就会跑掉，它的香会跑掉，所以我们有一些它是要你要手伸出来，然后他帮你放。那我们可以轻轻的，一只手挡在这个炉的下面，轻轻的一边先下去。
Okay. So she's saying there's 2 kinds of like schools of thought. In one, there's like the more human part of the ceremony, and for the more human part of the ceremony, you could pass the censer from hand to hand if you're like casual, if you're close, if you're good buddies. So if you know that person really well, then they can put their hand out and you can hand it right to their hand. Otherwise, we want to put it on the table. And then she's saying there's another kind of school of thought, which is that if you pass it on the table, which is a little bit more formal because there's not any touching, it's not hand to hand, it's hand to table. If you're doing that, then she says some people worry that when you set it down when people set it down, your guests, if they don't understand when they set it down on the table, if they're rough, they'll disturb the whole arrangement. So move the charcoal or knock the incense out of its little indentation, and the whole ceremony will, from thereafter, you'd have to take it back and correct it and everything, and that can happen if they put it down too hard. So says some people pass hand to hand even among strangers just because they don't want that to happen. Or another option is to make sure everybody understands that they need to put it down very gently. And she said you can even do one side and then the other, so it's even very gentle. So you're just very carefully putting down just one side and then the other side. So maybe you could teach your guests that, or you can all pass hand to hand, especially if you know each other. But if you want to be more, if it's about formality, then you would put it on the table and you wouldn't do hand to hand. If you want to make sure that it keeps its shape, then you either can tell them to set it down very, very gently, and you can pass it hand to hand. So in the next video, we're going to talk about how to hold the censer and how to properly smell the incense. So we'll get to that in the next video. So I think for this video, though, what we can do now is switch to another censer, and we can maybe go over the parts that we can practice cold with just a piece of charcoal that's unlit. Okay, so we've brought out a second censer. These censers in the kits, you can decide, they come in white or black. So this is the black one, and we're going to go over that process one more time. This time doing it cold without lighting the charcoal, so you could just practice over and over and over again, practice these methods, and hopefully you can see again just one more time and how we would go about just practicing this over and over and over and over again. Okay? 好，这是练习的。
那我们如果练习的话，我们就炭就不要放到火上。
Yep. So we don't need to light the charcoal.
对，我们就是直接把。
We just take a piece of charcoal and put it right in the ash. Make sure the ash is loosened first. Remember, we did that loosening of the ash, and you want it to be level, okay?
一样是平的，然后我们就
And then slowly turning the sensor, rake the pile. This is the first thing we're going to practice. We're going to practice a lot. Slowly, gently raking the pile. See, she turns the sensor, not the chopsticks. Raking up a mountain from the edge to the center. Using just the tip of the chopsticks. And just use the tip. And keep turning the sensor.
一样练习把灰堆到中间来。一样要看看灰的高度跟炭的高度。
Okay, so then we're going to check and make sure the charcoal is about 1 centimeter down and deep. You can do this right now before you start compressing, or I find it's often helpful to start compress a little bit, just like 10 degrees, and then check. But you can check right now, even before you start also. Okay?
因为我们有时候练习，然后会很急的时候，我们下去炭会跑到旁边去。
Oh yeah. We also need to make sure the charcoal is right in the center, because maybe if we're raking, we move the charcoal. We hit it or bump it, and it's not in the center anymore. So we want to check, first of all, that the depth is 1 centimeter down, and we also want to check that the charcoal is perfectly centered, that we didn't bump it in as we're practicing in raking up the ash. So we're raking up the ash. This is the first step that we need to practice over and over and over again. This is an important step. And turn the sensor, not the chopsticks. Rake, rake, rake. And then check the depth of the charcoal and the placement of the charcoal. So you want to make sure the charcoal is in the right spot in the center. You didn't move it, and that it's about a centimeter deep. Okay? And for practice purposes, you probably shouldn't compress and then the 10 degrees and then check. You can just check before you start compressing at this stage.
如果前面的确定碳都已经练习的不会跑了，那我们就可以等到压完之后，我们再来确定它是不是在你要的位置。
Okay, she's going to check again. It's right in the center and down 1 centimeter. Checking again. She didn't move it or bump it. And it's down 1 centimeter. And now we can start step 2, practice 2, which is compressing the ash. Compressing the ash is to so that the heat goes up the center, right? So it doesn't come out from the sides. So it goes right up into the incense. So slowly turning and just patting, compressing, little bit by little bit. This is the second skill that you need to practice over and over and over and over again. Slowly turning the censer, and your movements just have to stay steady, like a clock. Your movement is the same and the censer turns. Your movement is the same and the censer turns. You slowly, slowly, slowly compress the ash. You need to practice this over and over and over again.
So
she went already around once, right? She can practice going around and around. You can practice this all day.
那再一次让它更紧。
You can get even tighter. Go around one more time. So just keep practicing this again. Movement is very, very soft and steady, and slowly turn the censer. And you can see the way that it looks too. So it's got a real special appearance when you've gone around. Yeah, she's done it really well. And you can see if you look into the jar too, near the wall of the jar, where the tip of the chopstick has gone against the wall, and you can see it's more like the ash is more a little bit looser there, or more fluffy. Right in the inside, right there, where the end of the chopstick is near the wall of the censer. It's like it's got a fluffy from the tip just going in and out. It's a little bit more like fluffy down in there. Yeah. Now, 如果他们要画吗？是这个部分是可以做一个
可以。如果你要照着这个纹路，你
就是做一个脏画哈。
就是像樱花的话是5个花瓣，是5个花瓣的话，那你就可以找。
So there's a lot of patterns that you can also do at this stage to make it more beautiful. So you can start to maybe practice those if you want to decorate the ash. Comes at this stage too after you've compressed it. So she's showing us a kind of flower one, where you just make kind of like uga. She's gonna make 5 kind of like petals just by making deeper indentations at 5 even points. So she's making it like a flower.
弄个 花瓣这样子的。
Yeah, so it looks like a flower. And there's many patterns. Another?
对，那如果说像我们还有可以，就是我现在找一个中间的点，好了之后，我顺着它旁边。
Okay, so then another one is like this, where you start from the center, and then you make deeper indentations, kind of going down, and this will make like a checkered pattern, because these are going a little bit against the grain of what you earlier did when you were just going in a circle, compressing. This is all purely aesthetic, and so it's not necessary. These are just things you could practice, like making different patterns of your own making, or there's a lot of traditional patterns like this, the flower, or she's kind of like going at a diagonal from the center, which is, it just goes against the grain of what she already has from when she was compressing it. It makes this kind of like, a little like a checkered pattern kind of.
你可以做你自己想要的图案。
You can make any pattern you want. She says, make up your own. Yeah, so there's all different kinds of patterns. Again, the patterns aren't necessary. So the real like three things that we need to practice. The one is the raking the ash up, and then check that the charcoal is a centimeter deep and that it didn't move around, and then start compressing, doing the compression. So there's really three skills that you guys need to practice and you need to learn to be able to do incense ceremony. So the first is the raking up, and then the second is the compressing it, getting it compressed. The compression is important so that the heat will go straight up the hole that we make, and it will, roast the incense and not come out the side so much. So then the third step is to make the indentation for the incense.
我们刚刚中间的洞已经有一点密合了，因为刚刚做造型，所以我们还是帮它开一个小的洞，让火可以呼吸。然后我们再把，
可以这样子吗？
也可以平的。
Yeah, so you can make a little hole, and you can even put your finger over it, and of course when the charcoal's lit, to make sure that there's nice heat coming out, that the heat's coming out really good, and then kind of close it over, because we're going to make a little like bowl, so the top of the hole needs to be is going to be closed over by this.
对，但是这时候要注意，不要一次就压得太深。
So we don't want to make that be careful you don't make that indentation too deep, and then it'll get too close to the charcoal and burn the incense, right?
对，因为它会离火太近的话，香气会一下子就跑掉。
Yeah, all the aroma will come out of the incense very quickly.
对，所以我们一开始压的时候，浅浅的。
So very gently, at like a 45-degree angle, spinning the censer again. We're just going to make that little indentation at the top. So we made a hole and then we covered it up, and now we're going to just slowly make the indentation. Same thing, turning the censer, and just patting. One more time, we're going to go around, get it, kind of a little flat indentation right there on the top of the ash, as smooth as we can. The smoothness is just like keeping the turns very, very small, so that as you tap over and over, tap over and over 45 degrees, tap, you're getting like, you're not creating so many ridges. It's getting flatter and flatter, and nicer and nicer, smoother and smoother. Yeah, it looks like a little flower after you do it. Okay, you practice, 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 and you get a little beautiful indentation just like that, and it's very nice and smooth. And if we were doing a ceremony, then at this stage we would just put a little couple pieces and make sure they're smelling right, make sure they're starting to roast in the correct way. Once we determine that, then we would clean off the top like we did before with the feather, and then add the rest of the incense, and then we could start passing it around. But these 3 steps are the steps that you really, really, really need to practice over and over and over and over again, over and over and over again. You can also practice, you know, cleaning this with the cleaning, all the little steps of like cleaning around the edges and, you know, all of that. But the real kind of crux of the incense ceremony is these 3 steps over and over and over again, right? So let me summarize one more time. So you can practice, right? These 3 steps over and over again. Taking the 2 chopsticks and slowly raking the ash up, raking the ash up, raking the ash up. Then second, you test where the charcoal is. When it's hot, you could do a little compression, a little few degrees, and then check. But when you're practicing, just check. It's 1 centimeter down. You didn't bump it. It's right there in the center. Good. Then we can start compressing. And then we compress the ash, go around and around, compressing the ash, compress it. And when it's all compressed, if you want to, you can practice then also drawing some kind of pattern, any kind of pattern you want, a flower, checkered like she did, zigzags, whatever you come up with if you want, or just leave the natural pattern that's caused by the chopstick going up and down. And then number 3, we're gonna make a little hole and then cover it up and then make this little indentation. So that's going to be with the chopstick at a 45-degree angle, and same thing, just turning the sensor, tap, tap, turning the sensor as the chopstick taps up and down, the sensor turns and turns and turns, and we make this little indentation. So these 3 stages, just practice them over and over and over again. You can do it cold with just a piece of charcoal, and you do that over and over and over and over again. You get better at it, and you'll get to the point where you're ready to start putting some incense. We'll see you in the next video.